Okay, so we're officially live. This is so exciting. Um, so Melissa, I'm sure everybody in the the bookkeeper launch group already know you from when you were doing the I Love Bookkeeping podcast. But for those who don't know you yet, would you want to do a quick introduction?
Sure, yeah. So I am Melissa Honan. I am the CEO of Bookkeeping for Painters. I'm also the founder of Melissa Honan Consulting, which stemmed from, my love of doing the I Love Bookkeeping podcast. And so at Bookkeeping for Painters, we're a bookkeeping and tax firm that specializes in serving painting businesses across North America. We have about 127 clients now
Oh,
and about 1.5 million in annual revenue.
that is super exciting. And congratulations on the 5 new clients since you originally signed up.
Thanks. It's been slow. I think everyone's seeing that right now. The end of year has been pretty slow, but we've had a few stragglers come in. So I think that'll be it for the year, but we'll see.
Mhm. Oh, that is wonderful. So my first question is, how in the heck are you managing all of these clients?
That's a great question. My team, I would just die without my team. So I will say this is not just at this point, it's not just me, right? It
Okay.
couldn't just be me. And it's funny, I was just talking about this yesterday with a client that even to this day, when I meet with prospective clients, they always assume that I'm a bookkeeper. And I have
Mhm.
to say, no, 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 no. I hire much smarter people than me to do bookkeeping. So we do have 4 departments. We have our account management department, our bookkeeping department, our tax department, and then we do actually offer automation services as well. So our automation department. So we have a team of 2 to 3 people that assist every one client, depending on what package they're on. And so right now I have probably 22 employees and anywhere from 30 to 50 subcontractors, depending on what season we're in.
Okay, that is amazing. Like that is
It's
a
a
goal
lot.
right there.
I feel bad, but like in every team meeting, I always forget like one person. But in my defense, it's a different person every time. It's not like
Mhm.
I'm forgetting, the same person, but it's a lot of people. It's a lot of
Mhm.
people.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so when you first started your business, did you already know that you didn't want to do the bookkeeping and that you wanted to outsource that, or did that kind of just come over time?
Yeah, so that was always the plan. So our journey is a little bit different in that, in 2016, my husband started the business and I joined him maybe I think 2 or 3 months later. I actually
Mhm.
left my full-time job. I was making 6 figures working in sales management, and I left and came on board because my job was terrible. But also, Daniel was like, I could really use your help from a sales perspective. And I know that he had wanted to reach 12 clients by the end of the next year. So the
Mhm.
goal was to have 12 bookkeeping clients. I think it was October at the time that I joined on, by the end of the next full year. And when I joined in October, by the end of that year we had, I think, maybe 13 or 14 clients from me just coming on board and being able to work in sales.
Mhm.
And so at that time, we were both doing the bookkeeping, but we both knew it was always the goal to have a team. So moving into that, 2017 is when we started bringing subcontractors on. I left the company for a little bit after I had my son. My son was born premature,
Mhm.
and I had to navigate the whole becoming a mom and working type thing. So I did leave for a little while. I will also say that was partially because I'm a huge pain in the butt to work with. So I needed to leave. And I came back in 2019 when my husband was deploying overseas. I was pregnant with my second child, had a toddler, and coming back in 2019, full stop, knew as soon as I came on board, there was no way that in that instance I could do anything by myself. And so the whole entire goal from the beginning was to build a bigger team. So when I came back in 2019, we had, I don't know how many clients, but I think maybe 40 clients. and
Okay.
we were at about 18,000 in monthly recurring revenue. And so my goal when I came on board was, we had a small team, maybe 5, was,
Mhm.
okay, the first thing I'm going to do is build this team out so that we can double the company.
Mhm.
So that's a long way to answer that question, but
Oh,
no, it was never meant to be just us.
okay, and that's no problem at all. Like, I appreciate the detail. I feel like most of us kind of wait until the last minute when we get to the point where, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed, and then build a team. I'm actually in that stage right now. Like, I'm 8 months pregnant with 2 toddlers, and I'm like, yeah, I need some help.
Yes.
Yeah, so most people wait till
Yeah.
that point. I'm glad you didn't wait that long and you already knew in your head that you were going to get some help.
I will say so. I've been there though, where as we've grown, because we've doubled the company every year since I
Mhm.
came back in 2019, and it took probably 2 years of having several of those times where, oh my gosh, we should have hired for this 6 months ago.
Mhm.
And you have enough of those conversations, and then you try to figure out, okay, how can we plan for this in the future?
Mhm.
And I'm still not great at it. I'm with you. I'm 7 months pregnant,
Oh,
and expecting this baby to come in 5 to 6 weeks, probably because I tend to have babies early.
mhm.
And I didn't hire someone to replace me. And I know it's a little too late. And I was like, well, I've had this. I've been through this before, but we all do it, right? And so we're gonna wing it. Yeah, we're winging this $1.5 million bookkeeping company, if you guys are wondering. But you just have to do what's best for you. And for some people, I think that is reaching that point where you have no other option. Because I spoke about this at BKX. Delegating is really hard. It's really, really hard, but it takes practice.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Um, so I understand that after you started your business, you got your first client like within a month. Is that right?
Yes, Daniel got the first client. I want to say we started marketing in July of 2016, and it was July of 2016.
Oh, wow. So how did that work? Like, how were you and Daniel getting these clients in the beginning versus how you're getting them now?
So, it's funny, again, is I was just having this conversation. We do a lot of the same marketing that we did back in 2016 now. I think maybe some of what we do now is just a little bit on steroids because we have more money.
Mhm.
And that's the thing though, is, back in 2016, building a business, everything we were trying to do was very manual, very labor intensive. We were doing all of it because we didn't have any money. Who were we going to buy to do it? There wasn't ad spend. We weren't doing Google ads. We weren't doing Facebook ads. And in my experience, that does not work when you niche. It's very difficult to run ads when you niche specifically. I've found a
Mhm.
way to do it, but it's not going to be easy. It takes years. What we primarily were doing was LinkedIn mining.
Oh, okay.
So I know a lot of people through Ben's network, they've seen the different, strategies on that.
Mhm.
It really, coming up with, free content, some type of free resource or webinar, whatever it is, some kind of benefit to the potential client to try to push them into that, lead magnet, essentially, we were doing through LinkedIn. And I want to say that we were sending 500 to 1,000 daily.
Wow.
It was just constant, like it was just constant copying and paste. There was no, in 2016, nobody had automated that. Nobody had come up with a way to like easily do that stuff in LinkedIn. So it was definitely all manual.
Mhm.
Additionally, I don't think we started anything else until later on in that year. So I want to say that was pretty much the primary tactic at that time.
Okay, so just using LinkedIn to build your email list.
Yeah, build the email list and also to reach out directly, connect with them, and try to get them to schedule a consultation. So our first client, actually our first, I want to say 3 or 4 clients were just from direct messaging, painting businesses on LinkedIn and getting them to schedule a consultation with us.
Okay, awesome. That is wonderful, and I feel sorry for whether it was you or Daniel or both who had to manually go in. I feel so sorry for you guys.
It worked though, and and I tell this to a lot of my clients. Like sometimes, like if you're on a budget, like then that's just what you have to do, right? When you're trying to build your business. Luckily now there are a lot more resources to help that.
Mhm.
Um, I would say the second thing that we did, which wasn't the first month, but it was in those first few months, is direct mail. Once we did build a list of people, and that direct mail was also very labor intensive. I hand addressed every single envelope that we sent out, return address, hand stamped, hand stuffed, everything. And we're talking over that first even 6 months, probably 5,000 to 6,000 letters, postcards, whatever it is that we were sending out. And it was all just done by hand just to get it done.
Wow. So I'm pretty curious about like the direct mail. I've never I've never like ventured out into that. So what exactly are you sending?
So back then, not as great. We've definitely evolved. And it's so funny. I was just talking about direct mail again, because I have a colleague in the painting industry that just had like a webinar, direct mail, you're doing it wrong. And I was like, I love that name, because I think that's like, I think most people do direct mail wrong, which is why they don't like direct mail. And if you're doing it right, I think it could work really well. In the last direct mail campaign we did this year, actually, we did sign several new clients. And I think we needed maybe one client to break even, and I think we maybe got 3 from it. So it's not big numbers, but we weren't doing a big campaign. I think we sent it out to maybe 1,000 people.
Okay.
Back in the beginning, especially, and this is still part of the strategy that we do now, is you want the direct mail to send the clients again to something. You don't want it to just be like, hey, we're bookkeeping for painters, sign up for us, because they're going to throw it in the trash. You want to say, hey, we're bookkeeping for painters. We know painting businesses, which is why we're going to have a webinar on how to set up QuickBooks Online for a painting business exclusively on such and such date. Make sure you go to this link and you sign up, you register, whatever it might be.
Okay.
Or, we offer this complimentary finance guide for painting businesses that's going to show you the top 5 mistakes that you could make as a painting business owner when you first sign up for your painting business. If you want to make sure that you don't make these 5 mistakes, go here, sign up for this, right? So the big thing with direct mail, again, is you're still trying to funnel them into that lead magnet. And the goal there is that as these people continue, like in the different, you're hitting them from different angles, right? You've got them on LinkedIn, you're adding them on Facebook, might be, you're sending them direct mail. They're starting to see you everywhere. And so if you're tracking your leads, you can see, okay, this person has engaged with me on 2 to 3 different platforms. Now, when I move into my next stage of marketing, I know that that's a warm lead, and they're much more likely to want to schedule with me now because they have seen me. And over the years, of course, now people see us in 10, 12, 15 different places. I just signed a client that I met with originally in 2017 when I went to an event with my 6-month-old. And finally, we came back together in 2022. But it builds on each other. So I will say, you can do it in the short term, but the big thing with it is going to be consistency and making sure that you're hitting them from different angles and being present. It's just like, you want to be present because nobody else is really present, especially in that direct mail world right now.
Yeah, and that's amazing that you've been like getting good results from that, because that's something I haven't even like drifted into. And I know it gets brought up sometimes and people kind of just tend to focus just on social media, but it's really flooded. So especially if you don't have a niche, it's going to be really difficult.
And it's so funny, this last round that we did, I had I want to say I had probably a dozen free consultations that came from it. And I'm still following up with some of the leads. Some of the leads, they're a little bit smaller than clients that we typically work with. And so we're staying in touch. But almost every single one made sure to say to me, hey, I want to let you know, I got your direct mail. I didn't just get the first one. I got all 3 of them. Because that was the other thing too, is that we don't just send one, like we are going to send 1 a week for 3 weeks, or 1 every 2 weeks for 6 weeks, or whatever it might be, where, they're getting our emails, they've seen us on social media, they're getting our direct mail, they're seeing us everywhere. But every single one was like, I just want you to know that it worked. Like I came home from work, it was a hard day, I went to go do my own bookkeeping, and in my mail, is bookkeeping for painters telling me that I don't have to do this myself anymore? So I think that's the thing, is that you can turn off social media, but I think social media still matters. We use social media so much, but having that human element of, we are real live human beings and we're sending you mail that you're receiving, I think is just a game changer for a lot of people, to just put it again front of mind. I just got home, I'm tired. Oh, hey, I got this letter. That's a sign. I got to do it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I feel like I need to try it now. I might have to
We
give
can
that a
talk
try
about
next
it more
time.
another time. There's ways. I just had a meeting with a client about it and was like, okay, well, when you go to do direct mail, then you have so many options depending on what your budget is, depending on what your lead, like the amount of leads that you have are. So I think, again, direct mail, are you doing it right? You have to, I think there's a lot of people where if you go to some random list, factory, and you buy a lead list and you send them one postcard, are you going to get a return on that investment?
Most likely not.
Very unlikely. Yeah. So it really comes down to, there's a lot of factors. Where's your lead list from? How warm are they? Are they your ideal client? What are you sending to them? How often are you sending them? What's their call to action? So making sure that you have a comprehensive plan. If you just throw $1,000, $2,000 at a postcard campaign to cold leads, you're not going to get a lot back from it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. So what would you say, like, aside from like the growing stage, because I know like when you grow pretty fast and have to hire like out of the blue, I know that can be a challenge. What are some other challenges that you faced as you've been growing your business over the years?
My most recent challenge is HR, and not in a bad way, because my team is amazing and they don't have any issues. It's me keeping on top of it. And I tried to delegate it once, but then, funny enough, I'm still the one with all the answers. So that's the one thing, is, okay, what's the PTO policy? What's the vacation policy? Social media policy, all the questions you could ever think of. Like, if there's an issue with my simple IRA, who do I reach out to? If there's an issue with the health insurance, who do I reach out to? And right now I'm the answer still. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I've got to document that better. But I think because we grew so fast and because we were trying to be competitive and offered, benefits to our employees, I didn't do a good job myself of documenting that along the way. It was the one thing that I was in charge of, and I was not documenting it. So I think I would say probably everyone's issue, right? Not documenting your processes. When I delegate documenting processes, it gets done wonderfully. We're known for having our processes. That one, because it was up to me, I did not do it. So now I'm doing it now, because I finally have had enough questions on, what's the difference between part-time and full-time PTO? And I'm like, yeah, that should probably not be just in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah, so
it's not a big problem, but I would say, yeah, documenting processes and then having to get to the point where you're like, it's a little overdue. You're right.
So I know that you mentioned that you help others like with the automation and stuff. Is that part of like helping with like creating like SOPs, or is that something different?
So for automation, so we have automation for painters. And so what we do with automation for painters is that we will automate their backend system. So typically their sales process, as well as the onboarding of new clients, and the onboarding of contractors. So everything from, in their sales process, which is funny because I do this for bookkeepers too. But with their sales process of setting up triggers so that they're not having to manually follow up. So we have an automatic postcard that gets sent out to the client. When they do actually close the client, requesting the client's color selection is automated. There's just a variety of things that essentially significantly reduces their administrative load.
Yeah.
And then additionally, we have started doing some automated text message marketing for painting businesses as well. So that is the newest division. It's something we haven't really grown because bookkeeping for painters has been obviously growing so quickly, but it's something that we're committed to bringing onto the team in 2023 and growing that a little bit more. We've seen a lot of success there.
Okay.
On the bookkeeping side of things with Melissa Honan Consulting, I offer essentially one-on-one sales coaching and then sales process. And I am working on sales automation for bookkeepers as well. So that is a little bit separate than what we do for painting. What we do for painting is very, very specific, very, very niched. There are certain things we can or can't do, certain softwares they can or can't use. And that will be something that we'll be looking to grow probably in the new year.
Okay, awesome. I know your clients must love you. Like you guys are just doing everything. Like all they have to do is paint. Like that's it.
Yes, that's the goal. So back in 2019 before COVID, everyone was calling for a recession, and then all of a sudden COVID, and we were supposed to be closed for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then we're never open again.
Yeah.
It was a weird time, and so we wanted to diversify, and so we diversified by taking non-painting clients. So we do have a good subset of maybe 30 roofers that we work with and a few other trades businesses. And then we realized that's not so great. We'll never work with landscapers again. I love them as people, but I don't want to do it again. Roofers are okay just because I come from roofers, but no, we're targeting on painting. And so with especially this past year, and then calling for a potential recession going into the new year, our focus was to just stick specifically with painters, but to add on services. So in addition to automation, we are also launching payroll services starting in January as well, which I always swore, and I think that there's probably me on camera or at least on recording in several places that say I will never offer payroll. And then we're doing it. So starting in January. So trying to diversify so that we are that one-stop shop where they literally can just paint because everything else is handled.
That's wonderful. I think that's so that's one of the wonderful things about niching down is that you can do a lot of different things for that industry. You're not really that limited, honestly, based on the service. You can always branch out with the value that you give and still work with those same people. So I think that's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. And, the way we see it, there's 200,000 painting businesses in the United States. So there's plenty of painting businesses. We don't need to look in other industries, but we are trying to just provide as much value as possible. And those are the two things. We were like, hey, can you guys just automate that? And can you please just do my payroll? So that's 2023. We'll let you know how it actually goes though.
Oh, wonderful. So I know you said you came from the roofing industry. How did you decide to niche down on painters specifically?
So I didn't come from the roofing industry. I am just from a family of roofers. So I was raised by my dad and my uncle who have worked together since they were 16. They still do. So every different roofing company they move to, they come as a package deal. You have to hire both. It's a little weird, but they're great. So when it came time to pick a niche, similar background for my husband, but with painters. So my husband's father owned a painting business with a friend of his for many years. And then when my husband was in college, he did college pro painting, which is actually still a thing, and owned a painting company. And so when he came back from his first deployment, he found Ben's course. Ben recommended niching. What do you know? He's like, I know painters. So that's where it went. And so he started Online Bookkeep LLC. But then, after he decided, okay, we're just going to go with painters, he's like, nah, bookkeeping for painters. That's what we'll call it.
Perfect. That was it's an easy transition, huh?
That was easy. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So let me see. A couple more questions for you, because I know one of the big things that people are wondering is what are the lessons you learned about getting new clients, and what what part of marketing do you feel contributed most to that success?
What are the lessons? Can you say that one again?
Yes. What's the biggest lesson you learned like about getting these new clients?
Oof. Probably that onboarding is an extension of the sales process, which I preach to everybody, because I have a background in sales, so that's why I came on board originally. I've been in sales management for 15 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I always joke, I can sell anything, right? And it's true. And you can sell a client, and you can write on, have them off board immediately because something did not get delivered on, or your team is not in line with what the process was supposed to be, or maybe there was some confusion, or something just wasn't right in that transition. And so for us, it took us a little while. We had some pretty bad periods, I will say, where I'd close clients and then maybe 50% of them would actually onboard, because there was a disconnect in the process. And there were, at that time, what we had too many hands in the pot, where, we had multiple people onboarding. And although there was a process, people were still onboarding differently. And so different people would have different experiences depending on who onboarded them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was the hardest lesson to learn, was that I'd love to sell and just hand it off and be like, onboard them. And that can't happen. We've gotten much better now, but we've really determined now, as the salesperson, I need to make sure that entire project is managed from A to Z until they're in production, and then hand it off. So I have a team that onboards clients, and they do, let me tell you, all of the work for sure. But I do still meet with them on a weekly basis. And in our weekly meeting, we do EOS. We actually, in our weekly meeting, line by line, this client, what's the status update? This client, what's the status update? Any issues, any concerns? Are the clients non-responsive? What do I need to do? What do you need to do? And so I think that just keeping in mind that, it's great to close a client, but the job's not done until they are fully onboarded and in production. And that's the honeymoon period. And it's the most important part of your relationship, because you're showing what it's going to be like to work with you. And if you fail in onboarding, they're going to lose their trust in you completely. And that's definitely the hardest lesson. We had some really rough cycles there. But I will say that came from rapid growth. If we had only been onboarding 1, 2, 3 clients, could we have handled it? Yes. The issue is that we were onboarding 20 clients at a time. There's definitely a difference in numbers there, and what can or cannot happen. And a lot of it came down to timeline, right? Because even as much in the sales process, if I say it's going to be a 12-week onboarding process, clients forget that as soon as they sign the proposal, and they're wondering why they're not in production in 2 weeks. So managing expectations, managing communication, and making sure that the process is being followed, and that you're over communicating with your clients during that process.
Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense.
I could talk about that one forever. That was a big lesson.
So I'm hoping that's what you, is that the main focus of Honan Consulting, for bookkeepers, helping them with that onboarding and sales process? Because if so, that would be wonderful. Oh, okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
That's so funny though. Because I think it was actually Ben Robinson. He's like, we don't have anybody, that just has a program on onboarding a client. Onboarding client, everything, or we do it for you, or it's done for you, or do it yourself, or whatever it might be. And I was like, I ain't going there yet. Sorry, I can't do it. I don't think I've mastered it yet. No, I have mastered sales, I will say. So I do everything when it comes to how to talk to humans is typically how I phrase it. I have, sales systems. So essentially, we'll set up a sales system for you, exactly what process you need to take, what touch points need to be done, how to schedule your meeting, what that looks like. There is a side of light marketing where I do assist them with their website copy, like reviewing a current website that they have. If they don't have a website, referring them to people that will create a website for them. I don't create websites or do anything like that. Reviewing their branding, their brand guidelines, helping them niche if they haven't niched, clarifying their offer, reviewing what services they offer, how they package them, if they package them, proposals, all of that thing. Anything, any part of, okay, from how do you attract a client to how do you get them to schedule with you? And then once they've scheduled with you, what the heck do you say to them? So that's like the bulk of what I do would be the sales system, and then what I call presenting services. So teaching you, lots of role play, lots of one-on-one, like we would be doing here on, how do you ask questions? How do you build rapport? How do you, smoothly roll into presenting your services while fact finding? How do you do a written diagnostic review? And then I have more advanced programs that go into overcoming objections. How do you overcome a price objection? How do you follow up with clients that you haven't closed? And then client reactivation. How do you upsell your current clients? How do you nurture your current clients? How do you increase your prices? And that's actually the biggest one. Is I just finished my first mini course, which is how to increase client prices. So that's kind of what I'm starting with, is anything about how do you make more money is really going to be essentially what I will be offering.
That is fantastic. So we definitely need to stay in touch, because so I don't do bookkeeping anymore. My main thing is helping bookkeepers get leads from their website. So I'm building the website, setting up the automation so they can build their email list. And my goal is to get them booked calls. But then after that, I'm not a bookkeeper. I don't know what you need to say to them. So I can just start sending them to you.
Awesome. And vice versa, because that's where, like I said, I don't build websites. There's certain things where, I kind of put my clients, I ask them in the beginning, is this going to be budget DIY? Or do you have the funds where I can refer you to a professional? It's going to be up to you. And I can go either way, right? Because we've all been there where we created our own website. I typically don't recommend that, though, because then I say, well, you could spend 50 hours building a subpar website, or you could spend the money to invest in a good website while you're spending the time doing the checklist I just gave you. That's going to get you, clients. So yeah, definitely love to talk to you more about that.
Wonderful. So I know we're getting close to our time. For anyone, because I'm sure that after people watch this video, they're going to be interested in your services. So are you already launched? And if so, how can people reach out to you and get some more information about your program, like the one-on-one, as well as your courses?
So for my course, specifically, you can go to increase.melissahonan.com, and it tells everybody about that. For my one-on-one coaching, I have shut that down right now. Just as I mentioned, I'm 7 months pregnant, so I'm not taking new clients until the spring. But you can go to my main website, which is melissahonan.com, to join my mailing list. And I will have on that website shortly an application for waitlisting one-on-one coaching clients. So I do have a few people on my wait list, but it's not for everybody. Like I said, I'm very specific on sales with some light marketing. Although if you have questions on onboarding or random bookkeeping business owner things, I'm a human, I'm going to answer your questions, but I will say I'm not a generalist bookkeeping business coach. So if you really need operations, I need to know how to hire people, I have to recommend you to someone else. But if you want to know how to sell, get comfortable in selling, you want to grow your business, you need a system in place, that's where I'm going to come in and be the right help for you.
Perfect. And that was increase.Melissa Honan Consulting.
melissahonan.com. Just melissahonan.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I want to make sure I add that in the description of the video so people can reach out.
Thank you.
Get in touch. Of course. So thank you so much, Melissa. This was wonderful. You're doing so many amazing things.
I'm really tired, guys. But that's just because I'm pregnant. But no, thank you, and I really appreciate your time and having me on. And I love following all of your different recommendations. I've been getting your emails, and I like they've been great. So everyone needs to take a look at your email list if they're not on there already.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, so thank you so much. I'm wishing you like have a wonderful holiday. Enjoy this last part of the pregnancy. We're almost at the finish line. We're almost done.
Yes, we're almost there. Then the really hard work begins, depending. My
Mhm.
husband keeps asking, he's like, when do you feel like you'll be able to work after the baby? And I was like, well, depends on if this one sleeps or not.
Mhm.
So we'll see. That's just a dice roll. You never know.
Yeah, never know. Well, yeah, I look forward to hearing how everything goes, especially to see some baby pictures, hopefully.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Awesome. You too. Well, thank you so much for your time.
absolutely. Have a happy holiday, and I'll be in touch with you so you can get this recording soon.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye.
Wonderful. Bye bye.